I used to believe in forever. Not the kind of forever you hear about in movies or read in cheesy romance novels, but the kind of forever you build with your best friend. The kind of forever where every memory, every laugh, every inside joke becomes part of the story you think will never end. For me, that forever had a name. Hannah. Hannah wasn't just my best friend. She was like my second half. People used to joke that if you saw one of us, the other had to be nearby. Teachers paired us up for projects automatically. Our parents knew each other so well that weekends practically alternated between her house and mine. By the time we were 14, it felt like we weren't just friends, we were family. Hannah was everything I wasn't. She was loud, bold, and fearless. She could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 5 new best friends by the end of the night. She was captain of the cheer squad by sophomore year, the kind of girl people noticed when she walked by. I was the opposite, quiet, reserved, happiest when I was curled up with a book or singing softly in choir. But somehow, we fit. She was the storm, I was the calm. She pulled me into the world when I wanted to hide, and I grounded her when her energy threatened to spiral out of control. People used to say they envied our friendship, and I believed them, because who wouldn't want what we had? I remember one summer night, when we were about 12, lying on a blanket in my backyard, staring up at the stars. It was one of those nights where the air was warm and still, the kind of night that feels like a secret. We made a promise then, our pinky fingers locked together under the moonlight. No matter what happens, Hannah had whispered, we'll always be there for each other. Always. I believed her. I believed every single word. As we got older, life got more complicated. High school had a way of testing friendships, pulling people in different directions. Hannah climbed the social ladder effortlessly, cheerleading, parties, popularity. And well, I stayed me. The quiet girl, the singer, the one who wasn't exactly invisible, but wasn't exactly in the spotlight either. But even with all the differences, Hannah always came back to me. On Friday nights, after she was done with football games, she'd call me and say, I'm coming over. Get the popcorn ready. We'd stay up late watching movies, laughing until our stomachs hurt. She'd tell me everything, who she liked, who she hated, what drama was brewing among her friends. And I'd listen, always, because that's what best friends do. At least, that's what I thought. I guess the first cracks appeared when Hannah started hanging out with the cheerleaders more than with me. She'd cancel plans last minute, saying she was too busy or forgot. She'd post pictures with them on Instagram, all smiles and matching outfits, while I sat at home refreshing my phone, wondering why she hadn't invited me. Still, I didn't say anything. I told myself it was normal. People grow, people change, but real friendship lasts. She was still my best friend, even if sometimes it felt like I was holding onto her tighter than she was holding onto me. And then came the night everything shifted. It wasn't planned. We were in her room, sprawled across her bed with nail polish bottles scattered around us, music playing low from her speaker. It was one of those nights where laughter faded into comfortable silence, where the air felt heavy with things unspoken. I don't even know what pushed me to say it. Maybe it was the way she looked at me, like she was really listening. Maybe it was the exhaustion of carrying something so heavy for so long. Or maybe it was just that I trusted her more than anyone else in the world. I told her my secret. I told her about last summer. About how someone I trusted had hurt me in a way I could barely put into words. About how I had been carrying that weight, pretending every single day to be fine when inside I was breaking. The words tumbled out between shaky breaths and tears I tried to swallow. And once they were out, I felt like I couldn't take them back. For a long moment, she just stared at me. And then she pulled me into her arms, holding me so tightly I thought I might break apart completely. You're safe with me, she whispered. I swear, no one will ever know. This stays between us. And I believed her. God, I wanted to believe her. For the first time in months, I felt lighter. Like maybe the world wasn't as dark as I thought. What I didn't know then was that the very secret I trusted her with, the secret that broke me, would one day be the weapon she used to destroy me. Because betrayal never comes from strangers. It comes from the people you least expect, the ones who swore they'd never let you fall. And Hannah was about to prove that in ways I could never have imagined. At first, nothing seemed different after that night in Hannah's room. If anything, she seemed closer to me. She texted me more often, asked if I was okay, even walked with me between classes when usually she was too busy laughing with the cheer squad. I told myself that maybe sharing my secret had been the right thing, that it had deepened our bond, made her understand me in ways no one else could. But slowly, almost invisibly, things began to shift. It started with little comments, harmless on the surface, but sharp underneath. At lunch one day, she laughed when I hesitated to speak up in a group conversation and said, "She's just quiet. You know, she's been through some stuff." Everyone chuckled, like it was just a joke, but my stomach twisted. Been through some stuff. Why would she say that? Then there were the looks. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at me, not in the way best friends do, but in a way that made me feel fragile. Like I was broken glass, and she was waiting for me to shatter. It made me feel small, even when she didn't say anything at all. I tried to brush it off. Told myself I was imagining it. Hannah was my best friend. She would never use my secret against me. But the whispers started soon after. At first, they were faint. In the hallways, people would glance at me just a second too long, lean into each other, and laugh. I thought maybe I had food on my face or my clothes looked weird. But then the messages came. Anonymous Instagram DMs. Comments under my pictures. Words that sliced into me. "So that's why you're always so quiet. Bet you asked for it. Everyone knows what happened last summer." I remember the first time I read one of those. My hands shook so badly, I dropped my phone onto my bed. My heart pounded in my ears. My chest so tight it hurt to breathe. My secret, the one I'd only told Hannah, was out. Somehow, people knew. My first thought was denial. Maybe someone overheard us. Maybe Hannah let something slip without realizing it. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But deep down, I already knew. The proof came one afternoon in English class. I walked in a little late, and as I set my bag down, I heard a girl from the cheer squad whisper, "That's her. That's the one." Another girl giggled, whispering something else I couldn't hear. My face burned, and when I looked toward the front row, there was Hannah, sitting among them, laughing like nothing was wrong. I felt sick. After class, I cornered her by the lockers, my voice trembling. "Did you tell them?" Her eyes flickered, just for a second, before she crossed her arms and scoffed. "I didn't say anything, okay? People just figure stuff out." But she couldn't meet my gaze. That was when I knew. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand why she would do this after everything we'd shared. But instead, I just stood there, my throat tight, my eyes burning. Because even then, even after everything, part of me still wanted to believe her. The days that followed were a blur of pain. Walking through the halls felt like walking through fire. People didn't just whisper, they stared. Some with curiosity, others with cruelty, and worst of all, some with pity. I hated the pity most of all. And Hannah. She only got worse. She started making little digs in front of people, disguised as jokes. "Don't be so sensitive," she'd say when I flinched. Or, "She just gets like that sometimes, you know?" She laughed with the same girls who whispered about me. She posted pictures at parties I wasn't invited to, all smiles and glitter, while I cried alone in my room. I tried to tell myself she was just caught up in the wrong crowd, that she didn't mean it, that maybe things would go back to normal. But every day, the truth got harder to ignore. She had betrayed me. And the betrayal wasn't just about the secret. It was about everything. The pinky promises under the stars. The nights we stayed up until 3 a.m. laughing about nothing. The trust I had given her without question. All of it shattered. I started avoiding her. I stopped sitting at our table in the cafeteria, choosing instead to eat in the library where no one could stare. I muted her Instagram stories, so I wouldn't have to see her face. I kept my head down in choir, even though singing had once been my escape. But avoidance didn't erase the pain. Because no matter how far I tried to run, the whispers followed. And every time I saw Hannah in the hall, laughing with her new friends, it felt like another knife twisting in my chest. The worst part? A piece of me still missed her. Still craved her laugh, her texts, her presence. That was the cruelest part of betrayal. It didn't erase love instantly. It left you torn between hating them and longing for the person you thought they were. I cried almost every night, muffling my sobs into my pillow so my parents wouldn't hear. My grades started slipping. I stopped answering texts from the few friends I had left. I felt like I was disappearing, like Hannah had stolen not just my secret, but my identity. I used to think betrayal would feel like a storm, loud, violent, impossible to miss. But it wasn't. It was quiet, subtle, a series of small cracks that spread until suddenly everything collapsed. And my world had just collapsed. If chapter 2 felt like the walls were closing in, chapter 3 was when the floor completely vanished beneath me. By the time winter rolled around, my life at school had become unbearable. Walking down the hallway wasn't just uncomfortable, it was torture. Conversations stopped when I passed. Laughter followed me like a shadow. And I never knew if people were laughing at me or just laughing, but my brain convinced me it was always about me. I had once blended in, just another face in the crowd. Now, I felt like a spectacle. My secret had turned into a story, one that spread like wildfire, twisted and exaggerated until it was unrecognizable. One afternoon in the cafeteria, I was sitting alone at the very end of a long table, trying to eat as quickly as possible so I could escape. That's when I heard it. "She's the one, right?" A voice whispered. "Yeah, heard she's messed up. Like, really messed up. No wonder she's always so quiet." Totally explains it. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. The laughter that followed felt like knives stabbing into my back. I wanted to turn around, to scream, to tell them they didn't know me. They didn't know anything. But my voice felt trapped in my throat, suffocated by shame. I didn't finish my food. I shoved my tray away, grabbed my backpack, and practically ran out of the cafeteria. My vision blurred as I blinked back tears, praying no one would see me cry. But of course, someone always did. The cruel thing about rumors is that once they start, they grow on their own. It wasn't just my secret anymore. It became gossip currency. People I didn't even know acted like they had the right to dissect my life. And every time the whispers got louder, Hannah was there. Sometimes laughing along, sometimes just watching. Never once defending me. One day in history class, I dropped my pen, and when I bent down to grab it, I heard two girls behind me. "She told Hannah, right?" "Yeah, that's what I heard." Wow. Can you imagine trusting someone that much? And then having her just spill everything? I mean, serves her right. Who tells people stuff like that anyway? I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was drowning. I thought about deleting all my social media, thought about begging my parents to let me switch schools, thought about just disappearing. Because that's what it felt like people wanted, for me to vanish. And still, the worst pain came from Hannah. She didn't just betray me. She thrived off the betrayal. She became closer to the very people who laughed at me. She started dressing like them, talking like them, posting selfies with them at football games. And in every picture, she smiled like she'd never even known me. One Friday night, I sat in my room scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A group photo from the pep rally. Hannah was in the center, her arm around the same girl who had whispered about me in history class. The caption read, "Best night with my real ones." Real ones. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. My chest felt like it had caved in. After everything, after years of friendship, after secrets and promises and sleepovers, I wasn't one of her real ones. I was nothing. The next week was when things escalated from whispers to outright cruelty. Someone made a fake TikTok account with my name, posting memes and jokes about me. My photo was edited into embarrassing images, paired with captions about my secret. People at school shared them like they were funny, like they weren't destroying me with every repost. I tried to report the account, but by the time it was taken down, the damage was already done. The videos had been saved, shared, and passed around in group chats. There was no escaping it. I felt exposed, raw, like my entire identity had been ripped away and replaced with a joke. And Hannah? She said nothing. She didn't defend me. She didn't reach out. But I saw her like one of the posts before it was deleted. That single heart-shaped icon broke me more than all the whispers combined. At home, I hid it as best I could. My parents noticed I was quieter, that my grades were slipping, but I brushed it off. Just tired, I'd say. Or, it's a lot of homework. I didn't have the words to explain the pain. How could I? They wouldn't understand what it felt like to have your world crumble because of someone you trusted most. Nights became the hardest. I lay awake replaying everything in my head, asking myself where I went wrong. Was I stupid for trusting her? Did I deserve this for opening up? Was I just too weak? The questions ate at me, leaving me hollow. One night, as I scrolled through old photos of us, me and Hannah smiling at the county fair, arms around each other at the choir concert, I broke down completely. My sobs were so loud, I had to bury my face in a pillow to keep from waking my parents. How could someone who once promised she'd never hurt me become the one to destroy me? The betrayal wasn't just a knife, it was poison. And it was spreading through every part of my life. By the time spring came, I wasn't the same girl anymore. I walked with my head down, avoided eye contact, stopped volunteering to sing solos in choir. I wore oversized hoodies, not because I liked them, but because they made me invisible. And yet, no matter how hard I tried to disappear, the world refused to let me. The whispers, the stares, the laughter, it followed me everywhere. It was like living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But deep down, in the small, stubborn part of my heart that still believed in justice, I knew this couldn't last forever. Secrets always have a way of catching up to the people who tell them. And as broken as I felt, a quiet voice inside me whispered, "Her day will come." By the time summer was on the horizon, I was barely holding myself together. The hallways, the classrooms, the cafeteria, they weren't just places in school anymore. They were battlefields. And every single day felt like a war I was losing. I woke up each morning with a knot in my stomach, knowing what awaited me. The stares, the whispers, the sly smirks. It didn't matter how much I tried to ignore it, how much I forced my eyes to the floor. It was always there. But the worst part wasn't the strangers. It wasn't even the fake TikTok account or the endless group chat screenshots that somehow always circled back to me. No, the worst part was Hannah. Every time I saw her, it was like pouring salt on a wound that never healed. She was radiant, surrounded by people who used to never notice her until she turned my pain into her currency. She laughed louder now. She posted more. She thrived while I sank deeper into the quicksand of humiliation. One day, in English class, I had to give a presentation. My palms were sweaty, my throat dry. I hated standing in front of everyone now, hated feeling their eyes on me. As I stumbled through my slides, I heard it, a small giggle from the back row. I didn't want to look, but my eyes flicked up anyway. It was Hannah, smiling, whispering something to the girl beside her. The girl covered her mouth, trying to stifle her laugh. My stomach twisted. I lost my place in my notes. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the paper. By the time I finished, my face was hot with shame. And when the teacher said, "Good job," I wanted to scream. Good job? I had just been torn apart inside, and she thought it was a good job. I walked back to my seat as quietly as I could, blinking back tears. But that night, something changed. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling like I always did, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the realization that I couldn't live like this anymore. But whatever it was, it burned hotter than the shame. For months, I had been carrying the weight of what Hannah did, silently breaking while she flourished. I had been letting her win, and the thought made me sick. Why did I have to be the one hiding in oversized hoodies? Why did I have to cry into pillows while she smiled in Instagram posts? Why did I suffer for trusting someone while the betrayer got away with it? No. The word rang in my head like a bell. No more. The next day at school, I felt different. The pain was still there, sure. The whispers hadn't stopped. But there was something new in my chest. Resolve. A quiet, stubborn flame that refused to be snuffed out. And that's when I started noticing cracks in Hannah's perfect new world. At first, they were small. I overheard one of her new friends saying, "Why is she always so dramatic?" Another time, I caught a girl rolling her eyes when Hannah retold a story that wasn't even hers. The same people who once elevated her were starting to see the truth. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel powerless. Still, the real breaking point came 2 weeks later. I was walking home after school, earbuds in, trying to drown out the day, when I got a text from a random number. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. It was a screenshot. Hannah, in a group chat talking about me. Again. Except this time it wasn't just my secret she mocked. It was me as a whole. She's pathetic. Honestly, I only hung out with her because no one else would. And look how obsessed she was, like a puppy. Kinda sad. My hands shook as I read the words. My chest ached like someone had punched me. I wanted to collapse right there on the sidewalk. But beneath the pain, beneath the sting of humiliation, that fire inside me roared. A puppy. That's what I had been to her. Years of friendship, loyalty, laughter, and to her, I was nothing more than a joke. That night, I didn't cry into my pillow. I didn't scroll through old photos, torturing myself with memories of what we once were. Instead, I opened my laptop. I pulled out the folder I had been too afraid to touch for months, a folder full of screenshots, messages, little pieces of evidence I had collected when everything first started falling apart. At the time, I didn't even know why I saved them. Maybe I thought I was protecting myself. Maybe I was just desperate to prove I wasn't crazy. Now, looking at them, I realized what they really were. A weapon. Every rumor she spread. Every cruel message. Every fake laugh. I had proof. And for the first time since the nightmare began, I felt like I wasn't the victim anymore. I was holding the truth in my hands. The truth that Hannah wasn't a hero. She wasn't popular because she deserved it. She wasn't special. She was cruel. She was manipulative. And she was a liar. The world had believed her version of me for too long. Maybe it was time they saw the real version of her. As I sat there, scrolling through the evidence, a plan began to form in my mind. I didn't know exactly how or when, but I knew this. Hannah wasn't going to get away with what she did to me. Not anymore. The weeks that followed were like a storm gathering quietly on the horizon. I walked through the halls with my head down, but something was different. Inside, I was no longer broken, I was waiting, watching, preparing. Hannah still held her throne, still surrounded by her so-called friends, still posting perfect selfies with captions that made it seem like her life was untouched by guilt. But the more I observed, the more I realized her empire wasn't as solid as it looked. Her friends laughed with her, sure, but their laughter felt forced, stretched thin like plastic. The cracks I'd noticed before were widening, and I was ready to strike when the time was right. It came sooner than I expected. Our school hosted a yearly assembly where different student groups presented their projects, performances, or messages. This year, the theme was truth and identity. Irony at its finest. Hannah had somehow been picked as one of the student speakers, set to share a speech about authenticity and loyalty. The moment I saw her name on the list, my blood boiled. Authenticity? Loyalty? She had turned betrayal into an art form, and now she was going to stand in front of the entire school and pretend she was some beacon of honesty? That night, I made my choice. I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story anymore. I gathered everything, screenshots, messages, proof of her lies, and I crafted them into something undeniable. I didn't want revenge for the sake of cruelty. I wanted justice. I wanted people to know the truth, so I could finally breathe again. The morning of the assembly, my hands trembled as I slipped my USB drive into my pocket. I hadn't told anyone what I planned to do, not even the tiny circle of classmates who had started talking to me again after realizing Hannah wasn't as perfect as she seemed. This was something I had to do myself. The auditorium buzzed with chatter as students filled the seats. Teachers hushed the noise, but the air was electric, filled with anticipation. One by one, groups presented their projects. Skits, songs, speeches. My stomach twisted with each passing minute, knowing what I was about to do. Finally, Hannah's name was called. She walked onto the stage with that same fake smile I once thought was real. She wore confidence like armor, her voice steady as she spoke about being there for others and the importance of trust in friendships. The audience nodded, some even clapped. They bought it. And that's when I stood up. Stop lying. The words came out before I could second guess myself. The auditorium fell silent, every eye snapping toward me. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced myself to keep going. You don't care about trust, Hannah. You don't care about loyalty. You betrayed the one person who trusted you most, and you built your popularity on her pain. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Hannah froze, her fake confidence faltering for the first time. Sit down, she hissed, her smile twitching. You're embarrassing yourself. No, I said, my voice louder now. My hands shook as I pulled out my USB drive. You're the one who's about to be exposed. I walked down the aisle toward the stage, and though my legs felt like they were made of lead, something inside me carried me forward. A teacher tried to stop me, but I looked him dead in the eye. You need to see this. Moments later, my evidence was projected onto the big screen behind Hannah. Message after message appeared for everyone to see. Screenshots of Hannah mocking me, spreading lies, laughing about the secret I had trusted her with. Proof that she had created the fake account. Proof that she wasn't a victim or a loyal friend, but the mastermind behind the cruelty. The auditorium erupted. Students gasped, whispered, pointed. Hannah's face drained of color. That's not, those are fake, she stammered. She's lying. But no one believed her. The evidence was too clear, too damning. Her own words were on the screen, undeniable and unedited. For the first time, I wasn't the one crumbling under the weight of stares. She was. You ruined me, I said, my voice breaking but strong enough to echo through the room. You made me hate myself. You made me feel worthless. And the whole time, you pretended to be someone you're not. But now, everyone knows the truth. Silence hung heavy. And then, slowly, it happened. Applause. It started with one student, then another, until the room thundered with clapping. Not because I humiliated her, but because I stood up. Because I refused to stay silent anymore. Hannah ran off the stage, tears streaking her makeup. For once, she couldn't hide behind her fake smile. In the days that followed, the shift was undeniable. People I thought would never look at me again came up to apologize. Some admitted they had believed her lies because it was easier than questioning them. Others told me they admired my courage. And Hannah? She disappeared from the spotlight. Her reign ended as quickly as it began. The friends who had once orbited her drifted away. Without her throne of lies, she had nothing left. But this wasn't about her anymore. For the first time in months, I felt free. The whispers stopped. The stares softened. And in the quiet that followed, I began to heal. It wasn't easy. Some scars remained, inside and out. But I learned something through it all. Trust is fragile, and betrayal cuts deep, but strength is born in the fire of pain. I had been broken, humiliated, cast aside. But I rose. I took back my voice, and in doing so, I found a version of myself stronger than the girl who had once believed friendship was forever. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth everything I lost. Because now, I wasn't a victim. I was a survivor. And this was only the beginning of who I was meant to be.